tonight's council meeting. I'll open up the council meeting for January 5th, 2021. All you, Kyle.
All right, so we'll do the pledge to the flag.
All right, here we go. Gotcha.
All right.
I pledge
Allegiance of the United States
of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Albert.
No worries. I was surprised with all of the audio delay. We did pretty well staying synced.
Roll call is next.
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Albert.
Here.
Councilor Kobe.
Here.
Councilor Ganong.
Here.
Councilor La Rochelle. Councilor Ward.
Here.
Councilor Lunt.
Here.
And Councilor Fellows.
Here.
Next item is good news and recognition.
Anybody got anything from the holiday since we last spoke? None. It looks like everybody survived the holidays. Big happy holidays and a happy new year to townspeople that we represent. Next item, Tyler, if nobody's got anything else.
Okay, we move right to the public hearing. Those listening from Town Hall live video streaming are now invited to send written comments by emailing award@lisbonme.org. Councilor Ward will review his emails at this time. The first public hearing is the special entertainment permit for the Slovak Catholic Association.
I got nothing on the town emails. I'll open up the public hearing if that was the case. Seeing nothing and having nothing in my emails, so we'll close that and we'll move on, Tyler.
The next public hearing is for Coombs Mountford American Legion Post 158 for their special entertainment permit.
Again, I have nothing on that, so we will open and close and move on.
Next is the audience participation and response for agenda items. Those listening from Town Hall streams may also send written comments by emailing award@lisbonme.org.
I still got nothing, but for the listening public, as we've done throughout all the closures, I will continue to monitor throughout the course of the meeting. If somebody thinks of something and they are watching this and paying attention, by all means, I will enter it into the public record.
Okay. The next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be considered for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion unless the council requests an item be removed. Any wishing to remove an item?
Can we remove the municipal budget workshop schedule, please? Just because I have that issue with a couple of days.
All right. So we'll remove that. And it's on the floor for discussion.
Okay. Diane, in the agenda on the summary that you put together for a schedule, can you put the placeholders for the capital improvement plan working their way through the finance committee just for the public? I know they're actively doing it because I know they discussed some of it, and Mr. Albert can bring us up to date with what they talked about in the last meeting.
Right, so right now we're still working on the capital improvement plan, and we would like to have it ready for, I don't think it'll be ready for the meeting in January, but for the meeting in February. We're going to try to get it ready for January. If not, it'll be for our meeting in February, which will be before it comes to council.
You could just modify the schedule for our next meeting with at least proposed dates for January and their February meetings to at least reflect what I know is going on with the finance committee, because I do know that they also, Mr. Albert, will speak to their goals, but that was one of them with the capital improvement plan.
Okay, so what is it you want me to do?
Flag the two. In your schedule that you presented, there's nothing out there talking about the finance committee. If you
Okay.
put their 2 meeting dates in there, because I know they intend to visit them at those meetings.
So what I'll do is I can revise this schedule, or do you want me to do a separate one for the finance committee and when I feel that we're going to be bringing things to them?
one schedule so they can see it, because the way that
Okay.
I think that they would be interested is, when we enter the budget part of it, that they actually know the meeting schedules, same as us, that, they would be able to weigh into anything that they saw in the budget that we hadn't already considered. So,
Okay.
one schedule.
Yep, I can do that.
The other one that stood off the page was April 23rd. I think that was a holdover from the previous year where we moved the, one presentation for the capital improvement for the planning board and the council as one. I don't think that meeting is actually necessary anymore.
Okay.
And the only other thing that I had would be, it seems like a good placeholder because we're in the discussion is for Diane's purposes, guys, because now that the capital improvement plan is 90% complete, is there anything from your perspective or our perspective as a council that we would want to see in a budget so Diane can staff start thinking about that? Nobody's got anything?
Just what I gave you earlier.
Repeat it for the listening dot in the Zoom stream, if you would, Don.
Well, that was the need to address the lighting at the town office itself.
Yep.
We do have some street lighting across the street, but it's still treacherous and dark to try to turn into the, particularly coming from the west.
Right. And I do know, because I copied you on that, that was when we were putting together town council goals for the coming year, you mentioned that. I made sure that it was at least as a placeholder in the capital improvement plan, and I know Diane is followed up on that, so that one's already in play as well. But I was just thinking, last year we came out of the gate clearly when things started ramping up in March, that we were pretty committed to a flat budget trying to come in associated with that. I don't know if I would come out of the gate actually with any clear message from my perspective. I just know that this is going to be a year where budgetary revenue shortfalls that the state and federal are going to clearly play themselves out. And typically, as things fall to a lower form of government, I'm just curious to see what might end up in ours that's either underfunded or non-funded that we're ultimately going to have to be expected for.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I've been thinking, I've been giving this some thought, and I'm just kind of piggyback on your thought process that you had there, which I think it would be very easy for us to come out and say, you know, let's shoot for the same thing we shot for last year, which is flat, because there are so many unknowns and so many variables that we still have yet to reveal themselves. We know that they're coming, we just don't know what they look like and how good or bad they were going to be. So, you know, I think for me, I'm of the mindset of let's actually go into this budget process not with our blinders on that there is a problem that we could anticipate, but let's have our department heads and ask them to prepare the best budget based on their need at this moment, and keeping in mind that there is a possibility that there's going to be a significant shortfall. So that makes it all that much more important for them to prioritize now more than ever, and realizing that some of the bigger asks may have to hold off, but they still should be on there because these are things that should be on our radar for capital improvement down the line. It's not about just right now. It is about right now for preparing for this budget coming up, but getting these things in that pecking order now. There's always going to be the possibility of a downturn economically. Why shouldn't we prepare the way we would normally and using the capital improvement improvement plan for what it's designed to do, which is to be a measured plan to large expenses. So that way we're not upended when we have these sort of economic downturns. That's just my thought.
Yeah, may I? One of the things I think we need to keep in mind, and again, I'm all about the idea of having the most leanest budget as possible, but last year we actually pulled a lot of straws to actually, we're running pretty lean, and I know Randy and some other departments actually lost personnel that actually made the year pretty difficult. And I know we actually recently even mentioned to the police department about the idea of one personnel leaving to replace another one. So I think I would like to see, maybe some information from Diane and department heads about, we definitely did pull the rug at the last minute last year. We did without some personnel that probably we've always felt as being needed. So I think there's some places where we can actually keep holding lean, and some places that we're probably doing injustice to our town for having lack of personnel in key areas, maybe cost us more money. So I think I'd like to see outline on that, or where we were. Did we actually pay for enough extra personnel with just overtime last year for people making up the difference? Definitely, if we get rid of people or we don't replace them, there's someone else has to fill that need. So I guess I would like to actually have some type of overview going in. I think the idea of keeping the budget flat as it was last year is going to be very difficult. I mean, 1 year is one thing. Multiple years, you tend to start losing services or actually losing the ability to keep things running. A town, nothing goes down, everything goes up, and our needs are getting bigger. Again, I'm not promoting the idea we need to have a large budget increase, but I think we need to be honest to see where we're at before we go in and make a determination. We're going to try to go in flat and not have it be a reality.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
my take on that is pretty close to what Norm was saying. I think we should put an essentials budget in, what we really think we need, keeping in mind that, the sky is not possible, so that all department heads know that. And then if we have to come in at less because we don't get the funding from the state or whatever, then so be it. But to adequately plan, I think we need to adequately plan.
Agreed. I'm sorry, I was reading something else at the time. The one thing that I also like from Fern's perspective that I would like to add to that, and maybe get you guys' take on it for a directive to Diane coming from the council. I liked what Fern was saying, the fact that we know we called in some serious markers and we expected some heavy commitments from specific departments. Randy, right here, top left corner, one of them associated with that. I would like an update of what those markers did to those departments before we look at what it's going to do for a year or two with a course of a 0% budget increase again this year. The fact that the reason I say that is I just literally left town hall, and staffing at the PD is getting only more complicated. Fire department, we're in a downturn associated with people and looking at a place where potentially we're talking minimum staffing for a full-time fire department in our future within a 5-year period, maybe. The fact that, those kind of real things, to just say that we're actually looking at it 0% is kind of short-sighted, because we're kind of dictating what they're actually looking at for the groceries that need to be setting the priorities for a capital improvement plan or essential services, if you will. So I would like Diane task the department heads with, from their perspective. You've clearly heard what we're looking for is lean the budget as we can, but if there are specific things in the capital improvement or staffing that need to be at least considered, that they don't just get cut from this because it doesn't seem like the year that would be receptive to it. We just need to know what they're competing against.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
And just to reiterate that point, I think that one of the goals that Councilor Shell had last year when we came to this time of year was talking about making sure that all the folks that we have on the bus right now in the seat that they're in, as far as staff wise, that we're doing our best to make sure that they're happy. And by happy, I mean that we're doing the best to support them. It's not always about, we're not always going to be able to throw big parties and give out lavish things, but it's about making sure that they feel rewarded and appreciated for the jobs they do. I think we all can say, for the most part, that a lot of folks work their tails off over this last 12 months to try to make sure that we can, work inside of those confines of that lean budget that we had out there. Let's not leave them by the wayside this time, and I'm sure the department heads will do what they can to try to keep it lean, but also make sure that their people are taken care of. Because we don't want an exodus. We certainly don't want to see more people go because they're burned out. That'll cost us more money in the long run, and I think we all know that. Thank you.
Anything from school, Norm, that you might offer The thing I would say on that is, I know from a CARES Act in Lewiston, there's been a stupid level of funding that's actually been pumped through that's been beneficial, but my concern there is, I am hopeful that they invested in cost-saving ideas that are helping on a budget, because I'd really like to not think that we have positions that have been added in the last year that weren't in that approved budget that went before us.
Yeah. Now, I have not spoken with them. I've not had the first meeting of this year with them, so I don't have an update for you, but I can tell you from my interactions in their last few meetings, I feel very confident they know what we're going into for this year. I think they have a very clear vision of what it is that needs to happen, and I think they've done a great job. One of the only school districts that was still going late into the year, so I think they got a great plan in place. How that looks as far as what they had in mind for staffing, I can't give you an answer on that right now, but I can get you one. So I'm sure that will reveal itself much sooner rather than later as to what they're thinking and what their mindset is. But I'll carry the message when I go back if they ask, and they will. It's not like we don't have a great communication with the chair there as well. So I'm sure that we'll be able to get some folks to buy into the same sort of thinking that we're talking about on this side right now.
Mr. Chair, may I, the beginning of this, it looks like the first March meeting, March 9th, is actually the school budget presentation. If we're in the same situation we are right now, are we going to have it in place so we can do that, this type of meeting, in conjunction with the school board and the superintendent? I mean, just a thought. I would assume that some of this, the beginning of it, if we're still in a scenario we may have to continue doing what we're doing. Just a thought.
Yeah, another item that's actually on the agenda that Dawn and I spoke about for this, the fact that we need to find a way to actually do an executive session in person. He's pretty adamant associated with that, but I hear what you're saying. I think that we clearly made the right decision for January, and I'm not optimistic that it's going to get any better in that February timeframe. To your point, I don't know what March is bringing, but kind of broached that subject with Rick and Tracy to be able to figure out where we can land on that, so we can at least have more discussion, whatever form it needs to be able to make this a reality if that comes forward, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. And it's clearly what we're all saying, even if things got a little more fractured with all the closures, the communication has been key, and I think that's been the strength for us over the last year. And it's been a lot of real discussions to actually get to here that definitely have to build upon for the coming year too, because it's going to be no less challenging, because there were, in our budget, I felt good about, I know what some of our peers did, and they called out all the surplus. We didn't eat a lot of surplus to be able to get to our budget, so we still have fund balance money that some of our key peers don't for the coming year too. So I feel good about that. Diane, did you hear enough to be able to get a directive for a message to bring the department heads as they start to prepare what they need to for you for the budget?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear from them the one that's in the back of my mind is the dialogue that Ms. Neto does, a great dialogue associated with setting her budget for her department. If you had just a summary message from each department head of what last year's budget was for setting this one in motion, I think that's going to have some weight for us as an audience.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. I'm all set with that. Twyla, we need to vote on that item as amended.
So you just want to add a couple of dates for the finance committee, and you're okay with the existing dates except for April?
Right.
3rd. Yeah, we can amend it, or we can just adopt it.
Okay. Does that just get reinserted, or do we vote on that one by itself?
Let's vote on Schedule G by itself.
Okay, I need a motion, please.
Make the motion.
I heard Mr. Albert.
Second.
That's firm.
Can we vote on F as well separately?
So you want to pull out F afterwards? You may. Let's finish this vote first.
Okay, Twyla, roll call?
Yes.
Go for it, Twyla.
Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes.
Counselor Ganong,
Yes.
and Counselor LaRochelle. Counselor LaRochelle? Oh. Order passed 7-0.
That again, yes.
You can read your lips.
All right, the motion on the table, the request on the table was to take F, tax acquired properties, and handle that by itself next, please, Twyla.
Sure, and that is on the table.
Counselor Colby would like to actually recuse herself from this vote for any perception of favoritism or whatever you want to call it. So she's just asking that she actually be recused on this, so she's not recusing herself from the entire,
You're talking about perceived conflict.
conflict. Thank you. I had a brain fart. Thank you, Counselor.
That's good.
I need a motion, please, for the item.
I'll make the motion.
I'll take a second.
Second.
You guys are seeing the list associated with that. Anybody have any questions for Diane before we proceed?
I can read the motion if you need it read.
Please. Go for it. Yes, please.
Okay, the motion is to authorize the town treasurer to send out a 30-day notice of redemption, notice of intent to sell your former property, and application for alternative sale to the tax acquired property owners of record, allowing them to pay all real estate taxes and fees owed on the property in full or apply for alternative tax sale by the end of the 30-day period of redemption, and to accept the funds until council takes action to dispose of the property and issue a quitclaim deed when payment is received in full.
If there are no
This is
questions.
actually, and this is just standard policy. This is nothing
Yeah,
unusual.
this is something we do every year. And a good portion of these people on this list, for whatever different reasons, will get payment in full at some point here.
Hearing no other discussion, roll call, Twyla?
Counselor Albert?
Yes.
Counselor Colby?
She's recused herself.
Oh, that's very true. Sorry about that. Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yeah.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
And Counselor Ganong?
Yes.
That's 6-0 and 1 abstention.
All right, the balance of the consent agenda, Twyla, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
The second,
I'll second.
I have my second. Any discussion? Go ahead and read it if you would, Twyla.
Okay. The municipal accounts payable warrants for $341,395.46. The municipal payroll warrants for $209,451.71. The school payable accounts warrants for $370,520.37. The school payroll warrants for $1,096,597.03. The minutes of December the 8th, 2020. The wellness grant for $2,000 for 2021. Motion includes applying and accepting funds from the Maine Municipal Employees Health Trust 2021 Wellness Grant in the amount of $2,000, along with the liquor license and special entertainment permits for the Slovak Catholic Association, the liquor license and special entertainment permit for the Coombs Mountford American Legion Post 158, and to set a public hearing on January 19th for a renewal manufacturing medical marijuana establishment license for Crystal Springs Healing Alternatives, and to approve the poll permit for poll number 31 on West River Road. Roll call.
Motion to accept.
Yeah, we've already did that first. I did it out of order, so it was on me.
Yep. And so this would be the consent agenda. Roll call.
Yep.
Counselor Albert.
Yes.
Counselor Colby.
Yes.
Counselor Lunt.
Yes.
Counselor Ward.
Yeah.
Counselor LaRochelle.
Yes.
Counselor Bellows.
Yes.
And Counselor Ganong.
Yes.
Consent agenda passed 7-0.
Next item, Flora?
Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2021-03, the video detection camera replacement for Main and Canal Streets.
That's Randy.
That would be me. Do you guys have the prices for the replacement of the camera?
That was like 21,000 for the two, and it was 18,800 or 19,000 for the full 6, if I remember correctly.
Basically, what we're going after is the 360 camera. Basically, that's what we did down at Graziano Square at that intersection. And that system's able to detect your turning lanes, and it's taking place of all those other cameras. Now, we got a price of what it costs just for that one 360 camera, which would be $4,300.15. My take on this is at that intersection at Main Canal and 196, there are 6 cameras, 2 of them of which are bad right now. And to change out just those 2 cameras and have them programmed was over $10,000. It makes sense to me that there's going to be 2 more cameras or possibly 4 more cameras that are going to go at any given time, seeing as though A&D Electric back in 2018 added 2 more cameras. Not sure if they're the ones that are bad, but there's 6 to choose from. Now they added 2 more cameras because of the turning lanes that were installed. There was only a 1-year warranty on any of that stuff. So basically, we're left holding the bag on 2 cameras that have gone bad. It's my suggestion that we do the same because Chief Ryan will attest to this. We've spent a lot of money since 2018 getting the traffic from Canal Street to flow right, to get 196 to empty at the certain types of day, early morning coming from the west, and then the afternoon traveling, from the east. We've had some major programming issues. Come to find out, there's 2 cameras that are basically, as the guy said, they're not very good quality, very poor quality. Not sure which cameras those are. He's not sure who. Of course, we're bringing in Electric Light, which is a whole different company, which has been doing very well for us. They've come in and assessed the whole on what's going on, and our problems can be alleviated right now. We're in the tune of, I think it's, I'm not sure what that price is, but I think it's over like $10,000. Let's see.
Under 19.
Yeah, well, it was just to replace the 2 cameras that are bad and get them to work with the system that is already existing. Our cabinet will support a 360 camera. So it's my suggestion, we go with the 360 camera. We're only going to have to maintain 1 camera, and they can program this remotely. So if we have an issue, Ryan can call down and say, we've got issues with this lane not flowing correctly, and they can take care of that over the phone remotely. So we were having issues with Graziano Square after 6 o'clock where you would approach a green light, no other traffic around, and it would cycle through and make you stop. Ryan gave him a call. They did a couple things. And I think it's just, for me, it's the way to go. Maintenance and everything else. We're not going to have to maintain 6 cameras. We'll have to maintain 1. My take is I just want to get done with that intersection being a pain. And I think the 360 camera is the way to go. And it's paid for with the downtown TIF because we're going with new equipment.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
The only question I have is probably an obvious answer. Is if that intersection changes at all, or if there is a difference in pedestrian traffic, crosswalks and so forth, is that camera adaptable to that sort of thing easily?
Yes, it is. Like
Okay,
when
it
we
doesn't-
close down
we're
Main
not gonna-
Street, when we close down Main Street, all they have to do is, when we tell them, they'll reconfigure everything.
Okay. And that comes out of the fund that, if I'm not mistaken, has about 82,000 available right now, is that right?
Diane, oh yeah, Twyla or Diane.
The downtown TIF, no, there's over 170,000 available.
Okay, okay.
Chair?
Yep.
That was my question also, is the idea of the crosswalk there has actually been pretty challenged right now. Because if you actually, the green light to cross doesn't mean there's actually no traffic coming. That just means that you just got to beware. It's really not a safe crosswalk at all at this point in time. So I'm not sure, is that something, how does that actually get controlled into the traffic pattern? Because it's, the crosswalk is kind of a standalone item by itself, I believe, right? The light.
Well, the crosswalk, the way I believe it, the crosswalk, when you press the signal button, it'll go into the signals for the lights also, you know what I mean? The traffic control. And that will read, you know, what the traffic is going to do, of course, and then give it it's on a timer. It's not so much read if people are still in the road, it's on a timer. I'd have to ask him if the timing of the crosswalk can change, you know, because like you said, it's a standalone. So there's no way of the crosswalk lights knowing if 30 people are crossing as opposed to 2. You know,
The problem we had was the night that we were down there, when we hit the button, we got the okay to walk, but the green turn left lane was coming out of Durham was actually green. So the people whipping up and taking left had a green light with the light being actively for you to cross. So it definitely wasn't sinking in, I guess, or being very safe about it. It would just be nice to make sure that we have everything, how would I say it, the adaptability will be there with this system. You know, I'm sure it's going to be the same as what the other one was, but I just don't know if there's better moving, as Don said, as with the idea of improving that intersection crosswalk over the next year. It'd just be nice to make sure we have the right equipment in place. That's all.
I have experience with using the one at Graziano Square since it's new, and it works very smoothly. If you, as a pedestrian, it does interrupt the flow a little bit, but it gives you a relatively short cross time. That apparently is programmable, but it works in. It doesn't make you wait forever, and yet it doesn't hold up traffic a lot either.
The other question I had for
it'd be
Randy.
basically on the same aspect as that intersection there, because Electric Light is the one that put that system in.
Yeah.
Randy, the question I have is, so after a power outage, we've always had a blinking light down there that someone was able to come program it. So you're telling me after a power outage, would they just be able to reset it
Remotely from the computer, from their office.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair? Okay, good. So Randy, my question was, I heard you talking earlier about the cameras that we had purchased 2 more because 2 had failed, and then those 2, didn't take too long before they failed as well. Maybe I missed it, but did you get any idea of this 360 camera and this new company that we're with? What are the warranties, guarantees, services? Just give me a little bit of that. If I want to understand that a little bit, please.
With the price, with the quote that they gave us, they didn't give me a warranty, so to speak, how many years it was.
Yep.
Just to clarify on what went on over at the other, with 6 camera system. When we added the turning lanes, we needed to install 2 more cameras because of 6 forms of action. One as everybody approaches each way of the intersection, that's 4 cameras, and 2 cameras for each turning lane. The two additional cameras, which cost us like $10,000 for 2 cameras, that was for the turning lanes only, which I can only imagine those 2 are still good because they were installed in 2018. But my thing is, there's 4 that are old, because that'd be the original 4. So if there's two that are bad, it's not too long before we dump another 10 grand, change the other two out, and we're still at a 6-camera system. I can get the warranty information from Electric Light probably as soon as tomorrow and send you all an email. And
At your convenience, of course. I realize, I appreciate the sense of urgency around it, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that sounds fine to me. I just think I would be more, I wanted to understand it. It's probably not going to change my mind on how I vote tonight. They're going to do what they're going to do, and it sounds like this one 360 camera is a better option, and we have to purchase less equipment, and this one's probably better quality, to your point earlier. So I just wanted to understand kind of full scope for myself and for the viewing audience as well, that's all. And so when you get a chance to send that out, that'd be great.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I would, Mr. Chair, I would just assume that the warranty on 2 cameras that to replace in the 6 can't be any shorter than the one for the 360. So either way, we're going to have the same kind of warranty on the existing cameras that we buy.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so-
people who's living on that is hoping for better. I think that's
right.
optimistic.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, better quality equipment, to Don's point there too, even if it is the same kind of industry standard, only a 1 year, for example. I still think we're doing okay because we're saving the amount of equipment that we have to purchase by getting something that's a little bit more robust in its ability to kind of the coverage. If I'm understanding Randy's the way he's described it, it sounds like it's a better overall solution for what's been a pretty difficult spot to try to troubleshoot and then costly to boot. So.
Chair, may I? Randy, with Graziano, because we have some history there of what they've done with the idea of doing remote. Are we actually on some type of service contract where that remote is a set fee as far as what they're doing? I assume that they don't do it for free, but I mean, it's just.
So every time we have an issue, what we're saving is travel time, and it's a lot less for them to do it remotely, of course. There is no real maintenance once it's installed. It's basically, it's a one, there's really nothing to maintain. There's only one camera. It has like a small hood on top of it, and it's got a 360 view, and it's got its own pedestal and everything on the light pole, as where the traffic signals are now, and basically goes to the cabinet, and that's it. There's just those 2 pieces, the cabinet and the camera.
Last summer, the other company that we had have a couple guys sitting in the truck most of the day trying to figure out the programming. I can't imagine that was done for free. So,
right. The amount of money that we spent probably on the 96 and Main Street intersection alone would probably be for a whole new set of what I'm going to do.
Any other questions of the Public Works Director? I have one, Randy, and the question is going to tie into my vote. You guys are already probably anticipating from me. The fact that anything else infrastructure-wise that needs to be considered in the capital improvement plan, or have you already got that for the coming 5-year plan?
We've already got that covered in the plan. I've got, from traffic lights to downtown lights, replacement cost on the village light. We're getting it all covered this time around.
Good. The reason I asked that, I think you're probably anticipating it, is like everything we've been able to do with paving, I would like to see a annual budget amount that actually reflects what's in that capital, unless it's actually decided to go with a different funding source. So it actually, people can touch it. This is the benefit of what we actually decided to invest in our infrastructure. So we're not having this kind of situation that's just been band-aided after band-aided that is just coming before. So we're consciously trying to actually invest in the infrastructure that you're expected to maintain.
If I listed on my capital improvement and I'm going out 10 years, I don't know the life expectancy on these cameras, lights, or the module that it hooks up to, or anything. I mean, that's the hard part. I've got a good heating system at the garage. I've got it in my capital improvement plan, but there's no telling if it's going to crap out tomorrow or 5 years, 10 years, 12 years from now.
you feel better about the first 3 years than you do the last 7. I'm confident in that, and what I'm expecting is these are looked at annually. There may be something that always creeps into that second or third year, but usually you know what the priority should be in that year 1 to be able to at least get this process started. So, no, anything, it's just, after the $60,000 generator, the 1971 that you were able to donate associated with that fact is clearly we're missing some of this stuff that actually needs to be in that as a planning tool. Because if it's not in the Teflon 7 perspective, we can't help you help yourself. In that regard, make it a priority for us so we know that it needs to actually be, why are we doing this? So we can help you educate the people that are actually relying on you for the infrastructure that we're in charge of. So by all means, it's a step in the right direction, Randy. I don't disagree with you. Yes, Fern.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? I've asked this before and I know I'll probably get the same answer, but since these lights are actually on a state-owned road, there's no obligation from the state to actually help us maintain and replace any of these? Just a question.
Diane went down that road with John McDonough.
No, we have to maintain those lights. The state has no money in their funds to help us with that. And since they're not doing the intersection, when they do the 125 project, they wouldn't include replacing these cameras, because if they did that, then they would have to do all ADA in that intersection. So they have nothing. And there's no money in that win number because we depleted it to go into the Route 125 project. So the intersection's not going to get done. So therefore, there's no money to help during that time. But no, those lights, we have to maintain everything.
It just seems bizarre that it's on a state-owned road that we actually have to maintain the lighting, which I understand it is what it is. I think I've asked this question many times, but it just seems bizarre. That's all. They can mandate how we can use the lights, but yet they don't allow them. We have to pay for the full vote on it. So either way.
I've asked the question also, talking to John McDonough, that they want to do the intersection when they did it on 196 coming through last year, or this summer, and then they don't want to do it going into the 125 project. So at what point do they want to redo the intersection? They really don't. That's what's troubling me.
What was that, Don? One more time?
I said maybe we do need a rotary.
Oh, gosh, you don't need a turnaround. Any other questions of our director? Hearing none, do I have a first and a second, Twyla? I've lost track.
No, not yet.
I'll make that
Make a
motion.
motion to approve.
I need a
Second.
All right, roll call.
All right. Counselor Albert?
Yes.
Counselor Colby?
Yes.
Counselor Lund?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
I counted 4. I'm going to vote no for the same reason. It's not budgeted. It's not in the capital improvement plan, but I completely understand why it needs to be done, Randy. No.
Counselor LaRochelle?
I vote yes. I'm discouraged it's coming from the TIF funds, but I vote yes because I know it needs to be done. I sit through that misery every day. So
Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
And Counselor Ganong?
Yes.
6 yes and 1 no. Order passed.
Item 12.
Order 2021, number 4, personnel policy amendments.
So we have quite a few amendments tonight. I don't know if you read the packet, but I'll touch on them a little bit for you. So the first amendment is section 90-2, where we changed the benefit relating to the main PERS from 30 hours down to 21 hours. Under the Maine State Retirement's rules and regulations, we have to offer any employee who works 21 or more hours, we have to offer them the retirement through the Maine State Retirement System. So we needed to change that. The next section was, and then we also had to add per diem. We didn't have that in there. And the next section is the benefit levels. In that section, we added the earned paid leave because of the new law that just took effect on January 1st. And it says part-time ineligible, part-time ineligible employees shall be entitled to earn paid leave only according to the state statute Title 26. Seasonal employees as listed in the statute shall not be entitled to any benefits. And then we also removed the language about current employees where it says current employees who work less than 30 hours but receive medical benefits as of the date of the adoption of this policy. That's old language, and we don't have anybody working less than 30 hours that have the ability to have health insurance. Everybody who has it now is either 30 hours or 40 hours. So we have 2 employees that are grandfathered that do get it at 30 hours, but everybody else is 40 hours. So that's obsolete language. And then the pro rata benefits, we do pro rata, and we've been doing it, the policy says 30 hours, but we've really been doing it at 40 hours. That's the common practice, so we wanted to reflect that. It didn't make sense to do it on the basis of 30 hours, and I don't know why that was ever in there. So we're cleaning that up as well. The next section is section 90-10. All we're doing here is just changing the titles to reflect our current staff of employees, for example, for the Fair Labor Standards Act for overtime purposes. So we have a Parks and Recreation director now. We no longer have a town engineer. We have the finance director, and we have the assessor. It's not assessor/CEO. We added treasurer down below because they could be separate people. And then we took out director of solid waste because the public works director has that position. And we took out parks director because that's combined with parks and recreation. So we cleaned that up. The next section is bereavement leave. We wanted to include stepchildren and step parents in the to allow them to be excused from work with pay for up to 5 working days. We have, several employees that have stepchildren, and in some cases, they are raising the stepchildren, and it doesn't make sense that they wouldn't be part of that 5 working days. So that's the only change there. And then we also removed the language that said in order to use bereavement leave, currently, it says the employee must attend services if they are held in order to be eligible for bereavement leave, and we took that out. We just didn't feel that was necessary because I don't know how we'd ever track if somebody was attending a service or not. The next one. Okay. So the next one is 90-21. Did I skip one? I might have skipped the big one. The earned paid leave section. Let me see here. Did I skip that?
No.
No. Okay. So this next one, reducing the sick leave benefit from 8 hours per month to 5 hours per month. That's in conjunction with the earned paid leave because after looking through our policy and trying to do that earned paid leave benefit, because of the different language in our personnel policy, it was getting to be very, very difficult. So we decided to do the earned paid leave as a separate policy, but so that it wasn't an added benefit, we're going to reduce the sick leave. They're not going to lose anything, but we're going to reduce the sick leave to 5 hours per month because they're going to end up getting that earned paid leave benefit. If we didn't do that, then they would have gotten an additional benefit. All right. Now is the earned paid leave. What did I do? Just looking for a copy that I just had that I could read better. Here it is. So the earned paid leave, we want to do it as a separate policy, which is the way we presented it to you. And we've not combined it with vacation or sick leave time. But we have reduced the amount of sick leave so that they don't get an extra benefit. So beginning January 21st, all employees, whether full-time, part-time, temporary, or per diem, but excluding seasonal employees, will accrue 1 hour of earned paid leave per every 40 hours worked, up to a maximum accrual of 40 hours per calendar year. And then new employees will accrue the EPL from their first date of employment, but they must wait 120 days before being eligible to use the EPL. Subject to the waiting period, EPL may be used as accrued for any reason, including for an emergency, illness, sudden necessity, personal reasons, or planned vacation. Employees will be required to give 2 weeks advance notice for the use of leave, except for in the event of a sudden illness or emergency, in which event the employees must make a good faith effort to provide as much notice as is feasible under the circumstances. Employees are required to contact their supervisor before the beginning of their shift to provide notice. And we also put in language where the town reserves the right to grant or deny any request for planned earned paid leave based on undue hardship to the town. Any paid time off taken by an employee for whatever reason each year shall be deducted first from the employee's accrued earned paid leave hours. Once the accrued earned paid leave hours are used up, an employee may take any remaining paid time off from their allotted sick leave or vacation leave per the requirements of those policies. And the employee must use the earned paid leave in increments of not less than 1 hour. And the law states that the earned paid leave will be paid at the base rate of pay as defined in the main earned paid leave law. That the employee will receive the week immediately prior to taking the leave. Accrued but unused earned paid leave may be rolled over year to year in a maximum amount of 40 hours, but it will never exceed 40 hours. So if you had an employee that rolled over 8 hours beginning January 1st, and they would only get another 32 hours to add to that, so they'd never go over that 40 hours. And then the earned paid leave is not paid out if unused by the end of the year or when the employee resigns or is terminated for any reason during the year. If an employee returns to employment within the town within a year, however, their earned paid leave will be reinstated. If an employee resigns or is terminated for any reason during the year and has used more earned paid leave than they have accrued, the town may deduct that amount from their final paycheck. So that's really the basis of the earned paid leave. It wasn't easy putting this together because we already had leave on the books for the employees. So to work it in amongst our current leave, like sick leave, comp time, and vacation leave, it was proving to be very difficult. So we ended up doing it as a standalone policy. And Dan Stockford worked on this with me.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? So coming up into this next season, now that we actually have this on the books, if someone, say 2 weeks from now, actually comes up with COVID, is that actually starting, because this basically states that before you take any leave off, that you actually paid leave, that you have to use this as forefront. So does that mean that that's not clicking their 40 hours off? I guess how you playing it with the COVID?
We would, under that scenario, Fern, we would use the FFCRA leave first. As long as you, later on the agenda, you agreed to extend it to March 31st. For COVID-related reasons, under the FFCRA, it would come off in that first.
It just, again, a lot of this language is pretty legalized. It just says that you got to use this prior to using another paid time leave off. So that's excluding the COVID.
Yes.
Okay.
So for a point of clarification on that, Diane, where does the other leave balance come from? Is that just time that's given, or is that another leave balance?
Say that again?
The COVID accrual, there's nothing there. I'm assuming that's town provided?
If there's no COVID, I guess I don't understand. If they don't have any COVID leave on the books, the FFCRA,
Yes, where does that come from now?
if they don't have it, well, it depends on the circumstance. If they're out because of, if they're actually sick with COVID and they've already exhausted their FFCRA leave, they would take it from their sick leave. If they're out because they're not sick, but they're quarantining because they either had close contact or they went out of state on vacation and had to quarantine when they came back, then they would have to use vacation leave or comp time,
And
not sick leave.
how much is the leave that was given under the AFRC? Is that what you said?
That was 80 hours, I believe.
That's what I remember too. I was just.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks.
Not-
We have to provide that, yeah.
And that was from March through December. We're asking to consider to be able to extend it through May under that same provision.
Through March, yeah. So what happened was it was mandatory through the end of December. We had to offer it. But the federal government is extending it till March 31st, but they're making it optional for the employer to extend it. They're not stating that you have to, but they're making it optional. And due to the fact that we haven't had that many employees use it and the fact that the COVID cases are increasing, that's why I'm recommending that we extend it.
Agreed. No, it was a good point that was actually made for Fern. It plays into the other item that we'll be discussing later in the agenda.
Right.
Did I answer your question, Fern, before I took it in a different direction? Any other questions of Diane of this topic? The one that I have is, in my mind, the obvious one, because I'm the bean counter. Is it too soon to be able to know the cost of everything that we're asked to be able to make a decision on for a policy update tonight?
I didn't catch what, I can't hear you too well.
Yeah, is it my microphone or something? I see the same thing.
Your mic is still a little muffled, Alan. Yeah, for sure.
I just moved the keyboard that's in front. I think it was sitting in front. My question is of all the policy change that we're actually making, is there a cost to the town? And do we have any idea what that amount is for a ballpark?
No, I honestly don't, Alan. It's the, because it's not going to be paid out, you're not going to have to worry about that. But now we're offering a benefit to part-time and per diem employees that we didn't have to do before. And it's just, if they're out sick, we're just going to have to pay them. But they've got to earn it first.
Right, so right now it's a balance sheet item that will eventually have a cost, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's what I thought you were saying. Any other questions of Diane of this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion and I need a second for it.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I got Mark with, I'm sorry, that was Jeff with the second. Any other discussion? Seeing no, roll call.
All right, Counselor Ganong,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle, Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
and Counselor Albert.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, order passed.
Next.
Order 2021, number 5, the Land Bank Program.
Hey, everybody. Brett Richardson, Economic and Community Development Director. Here to talk about the land bank concept tonight. And first, a real quick primer on land banks. It's a catch-all term that describes activities by a government entity, whether a state, county, or municipality, play a proactive role in returning blighted properties or vacant properties to the market through taking a real estate action. And so last council meeting on December 8th, council invited us, staff, to put forth a proposed process to frame up that type of activity in Lisbon. And that follows on a few months of work at the Lisbon Development Committee to explore the idea and look at different programs around the state that include both real estate purchase, cleaning the title up, in some cases demolishing old buildings and then selling the property back onto the market for productive use and tax revenue. There are also communities that take a regulatory approach and work with property owners of vacant buildings to create incentives to put those properties back in the market. And so the process that we're proposing tonight is a simpler process that really relies on a voluntary landowner and a process that the staff, a criteria to identify eligibility for the property, and then to take that recommendation to council for approval for specific actions, and then to engage the landowner and seek a voluntary win-win resolution to hopefully clean up older properties and get them back on the market. So that really is the way that we're looking at it. Eligible properties, it's a general definition, but been vacant, abandoned, tax delinquent, foreclosed, dangerous, or blighted for an undue period of time, and that they detract from the value of neighboring properties and or diminish the safety and quiet enjoyment of neighboring people and passersby. So that's the type of properties that would fit the criteria. Staff, with council approval, would be authorized to acquire, hold, maintain, lease, sell, secure, demolish, rehabilitate, or improve real property for the purpose of disposing or selling the property in accordance with local priorities, which could include anything from economic development to affordable housing, local priorities that would be defined in the comprehensive plan or other plans that the town has. And really, the idea here is that from time to time, as opportunities arise and as properties are identified, staff would make recommendations to the council, seek approval, and then be able to engage that property owner to seek a positive outcome for all parties. And that's what we're proposing tonight. The funding to implement the process would come from the sale of town-owned property. There are also, it's an approved use of the downtown TIF district funding. So the town has a few funding mechanisms on the books that we could use if approved by the council to take those type of actions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
as you know, I sent you and Brett's seen it, a slight revision I thought was needed. I'm willing not to nitpick the issue, but I understand from talking to Diane that the whole process has to go to Dan anyway, so that we can make sure it's all legal. I have a tough time with the word undue period of time, so I did some rephrasing there. Undue is to me doesn't stand up legally anywhere, and so I think that the wording that I changed, which you have a copy of, would cover that. I also think that the funding process was about the same as the town had said, but I didn't include the TIF in there because the TIF doesn't need to be included in there to be included in the process. I put in funding to implement the process shall originate from sources specifically reserved within the town budget reserve categories for land acquisition, whatever we call that account. So that's what I propose to change the wording. And I don't know how we want to handle that, but
Is that the language that actually replaced the undue as well, Don?
what replaced the undue, well, hang on.
what I'm hearing in this regard is the fact that if you have an amendment there, we could get Twyla on board to make the revisions on what she's looking at on her paper copy. We could have that.
Okay. Well, let me read that brief thing to you from the top of it, which it says eligible properties, this is the wording as it's changed. Eligible properties for potential land banking activities may include commercial or residential properties. That much doesn't change. These properties must have been vacant, abandoned, tax delinquent, foreclosed, deemed dangerous or blighted by the town, and so noted on tax records for the property. And then it goes on to specific selections for this program require no specific time limit before such designation. The eligibility designation shall be governed by the urgency and specific reason for such certification and by the funds availability. Properties deemed dangerous shall have priority.
Do you have that, Twyla?
So you don't have a motion on the floor, so you can just adopt the
revision. Yeah, that's why I was.
yeah, program as amended, sure.
That's what I was hopeful you got that piece to be able to have that reflected.
Okay, yeah.
I do have one other question before. I'm sorry.
Go, Don.
I do have one other question. I didn't think to ask it before. It says in here, from time to time, staff will make relevant recommendations to council and seek council approval for specific activities authorized by the process. I get that. How's that recommendation made? Do we have a plan, Brett, to how that's going to come about?
I would say on the development director.
Well, what I'm getting at is I'm wondering, from one end of town to the other, it's kind of arbitrary. We don't intend to be in at least the long-term real estate business. We intend to have properties that are sellable. And so I'm wondering if there ought to be some sort of a scoring process or some sort of definite guideline process that we use as a thing. Not that it has to be worded here, but I'm just saying that I think there should be some sort of process like that.
Go, Brett.
I don't necessarily disagree. I think what we're talking about is a simple process, a desire to work proactively with landowners without airing a lot of business publicly. And I think there's a balance there. And if you create a scoring criteria, how is that used, and how is that shared, and how is that managed, and how is that factored in to maintain confidentiality and protect property rights? So I don't disagree, although the approach I took, Don, to this language, and it also speaks to your noticing the word undo, is a certain space here for positive judgment, both from staff and then also to go through council and verify that judgment is good and fits the value of the town. So there's some discretion here, but also the opportunity for the council to challenge, question, or reject recommendations. And so I hear what you're saying, and I agree that there is value to that. I tend to think at this point, simpler is better, and that as we move into this process and we get some more experience with it and we see some benefit for that, that we could add layers to it, including, if we wanted to, a vacant building ordinance, which might give the town more leverage with properties that have been off the market for a significant period of time, but there's really nothing changing the status quo for that particular property. So I'd be happy to go through and create criteria and create a scoring list if the council desires. I'd be happy to do that.
Go ahead, Al. My thought was not so much to get a really formal, detailed process with 14 decided steps. It was just to have a definite way. Didn't even have to be public. It could be all done behind the scenes. And as far as undo goes, I assume this is going to be an ordinance because we're enacting something. And if it's an ordinance, the word undo just really is so challengeable that that's why I wanted to reword it.
I would actually not advocate for a formalized scoring at this time, because reading this, I feel confident in saying all 7 of us have at least one, if not a couple, properties in mind. And I think you did a really good job vetting this through the LDC and yourself for this writing to keep it simple, to be able to be manageable, to formalize what we've been talking about for the last couple of months. All the properties that I'm thinking of, that all we're asking for is, okay, we've been doing this and we've been doing that. Look at Grazi Square. The fact is that was an opportunity that was the right thing at the right time. The fact is now we've already got a vehicle that's actually in place for the next situation like that to be able to react to it. And I appreciated this simplicity to it, and at least identified for the listening public that there's funding already set aside for this kind of thing, to not have those missed opportunities in the future, because they don't come back around. The fact is, we're umbo for a good set of circumstances for our community is actually a benefit that I believe is going to play itself out. We just need to be able to capitalize on those where they situationally present themselves to us. So, yes.
I think one of the things that's going to be, we have a great person in place. I mean, I think Brett actually has a really good idea from one boundary to the other, what pieces of property really stick out and which ones he's known from us and from other people of being concerned. So I think it's going to be pretty easy for him to put together kind of a hit list. So if something was to arise, he can tell us where that property fits amongst that hit list of priorities, right? So I think keeping it simple, letting him kind of roll with it, because he knows the players, he knows the areas and areas of concerns and some of the ones that need to be addressed the most. So I think it's a great opportunity. Simple is best, as long as it's controlled through the council. I think there's actually a really good safeguard. So I feel that it's pretty well written as is. Well, with the question undue, I mean, I'm not a big legal guy, so undue to me, I guess it's one of those things. It's a word.
But I've always said that the planning board does all the heavy hitting for most of us in town, because the stuff that you guys actually are expected to keep in check is a lot more ins and outs. It's the specifics, the nuts and bolts. So I appreciate your perspective on that too, Don. I also like the idea of down the line going into a vacant building ordinance. We have one on each side of the town, as far as I'm concerned, that actually, if it's not the one that we're talking about tonight, that will be considered for the future, because when do they get designated potentially dangerous? One could be close, if not already there at times, but I'm not the code enforcement or you to be able to make that determination. It's just, we need to have these vehicles in place.
My understanding is, to your point, Don, that vacant ordinance would go through the planning board, and I'm happy to help with that as desired.
Okay. I don't run the planning board, but yeah, I get it.
Well, you're the face on the council for the liaison at present, so I stand by what he said.
Well, I also like the idea because there are some building owners in the area that need a little incentive to do something. And that could help.
Yeah, and until we had vacant parcel standards to be able to eliminate the next Grazi Square, we didn't have a standard to be able to apply with too. So now we've got that well too. So it's a step in the right direction for sure. That said, Twyla needs a motion and she needs a second if we agree. As amended.
Motion.
Is the motion as amended, Fern, or just as is?
As amended, Paul's good with it.
Just second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on this item? Roll call, please, Twyla.
Okay. Councillor Ganong?
Yes.
Councillor Fellows?
Yes.
Councillor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Councillor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
Counselor Albert.
Yes.
7-0, order passed.
Next, Palala.
Order 2021, number 6, council working rules.
I looked at the minutes from the last meeting. Does it not say that we actually voted them with no amendments?
I thought you were going to have Counselor Fellow
He did. I didn't know if the fact that they were contradictory. I know we just approved the meeting minutes. So Don and I talked about this to know that he had a homework assignment, and I think a grand sum of that was we saw no need for anything, so that motion that we voted at the last meeting stood. We talked briefly about this kind of environment, and we chose not to actually go into it because if and when the state of emergency is relaxed, it will go back to business as usual and wouldn't present itself to actually have to live in those rules for the coming year. The one thing that I would offer that we talked about was the standard that we've always done through these meetings, whether they're with a limited capacity in the building or Zoom, is that anything that comes in, we will definitely enter it into the record, even if the person actually doesn't make that point in the agenda. So, for the listening dot, we are a receptive audience because we know that it's harder to actually get that public feedback, that, we would take that action step to be able to make sure that their voice is actually heard in whatever setting we can. Is that a fair assessment, Don?
Yeah, I was going to say, what I said last time, I say it again, is the governor's emergency powers and the executive orders covers our Zoom ability. And when that's done, we have no Zoom ability unless the legislature changes things. So, and then when I looked at the rules to see if we could put a contingency thing, they're so complicated, I said, forget it. It doesn't make any sense to waste time trying to do something we might not even be able to do.
So what's the motion? I don't think there's any action that's necessary on this item file.
Okay, so you're just going to keep the same council rules, unanimously agree to keep them.
I read in the minutes that we already did, so we're good.
Got it. All right,
We can just table it, can't we? Or what should we do?
I
there's
don't,
nothing to table.
Okay,
we already acted on it last meeting.
okay.
Yep.
Next item file.
Order 2021, number 7, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, leave extension.
Anything to add that you haven't already talked about, Diane?
Yes, I explained it a little bit earlier. So it's just merely we have the ability, the federal government is allowing us to extend it through March 31st if we so choose to. And my recommendation is that we do because of the increase in COVID-19 cases.
If they're allowing us to extend it, I don't see a reason that somebody hasn't had the ability to be able to draw against it. Just
Right.
because the time frame lapsed, it just seems counter to good public people. I need a motion if that's the case.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second for that.
Second that.
Is there any other discussion on the item? Roll call, please, Twyla.
Okay, Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes,
Counselor Ganong,
Yes.
Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
and Counselor Lunt.
Yes.
7-0, order passed.
Next item is the other business. Anything cool that we haven't since our last meeting, Norm?
I'm sorry, I lost you there, Alan.
The committee reports. Anything from the school department since our last meeting?
Nothing that I didn't give earlier. We'll have more to follow after the next meeting.
Okay. Planning, Don?
nothing new. They have it scheduled next week, I think.
How about LDC, Fern?
I don't have anything to add unless Brett's on the line still and wants to add to a next meeting, but I'm all good at the moment.
Okay, I'm seeing Brett with thumbs up. Conservation, same thing. They haven't had a meeting. I got nothing new. Recreation,
Nothing new to report.
county, nothing. Library,
Nothing new to report.
water done?
Meets next week.
Okay, and finance committee?
Finance, yeah, finance committee had a good meeting. Opened it up to the chair, their chair, Mrs. Ward, asked them to come and basically put out there what is it the direction they were looking for from the council. And we had a pretty robust discussion and came away with some good goals that they were going to work on, from everything from public works and talking about the tipping fees to a potential study for the feasibility of combining both the firehouses, along with a few other things that have been on their radar for a while. So I feel like they're definitely moving in the right direction. And then when they meet with us in a couple of weeks, I'm looking forward to that first meeting. That'll be good.
Cool. All right. We talked about it at our last meeting. We didn't have it formalized on the council liaison assignments. I sent you guys that with what I knew for goals in preparation for this meeting. Anybody looking to be able to recast some of those assignments as we move forward in the coming year? Norm, I just want to give you the ability, if you need to bow out, the fact is we got you a little heavy. I know with the finance committee and the school department, anybody's feeling overwhelmed, we can redistribute some of that if anybody's necessary, but don't feel obligated. I don't want to, it's worked for now, but I don't want to inundate somebody either.
Nope. If anybody wanted to play second fiddle or second chair on the rec committee, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I can keep swinging it. I don't have any problem. Doesn't matter to me either way. I don't mind doing it.
And as anybody well knows on this, for the intention when we formalized the liaisons more actively in the last couple of years, doubling up in some of these key committees to be able to make sure that their priorities, we have that passing of information. By all means, if you got an interest in a specific group and it's not currently in your assignment, speak up. Gladly put your name right there, and more the merrier. So if I'm not hearing anything to specific action, we'll move on. Town manager?
So I just want to report out that the Christmas Giving Tree Program was a huge success this year. We had a lot of people throughout the community that gave generously to the program. I want to give special thanks to Carol Leclerc, who spearheaded the actual tickets for the trees to distribute around the town, and to Amy, Megan, Lisa, Katie, and Pauline here in the building. They helped give out some of the gifts as people came in to get them. Plus they did some of the wrapping when we had a few tickets that the public didn't pick up. So we had to do our own shopping. So we did some of that. And also to the school, because we had met with the school and they were going to do their program, and we decided to combine it together. So what they did was they took up their collection at the school and then they gave it to the town down here, in which we went out and we got a lot of gift certificates. We spent locally at Brewer's Barber, East Craft, Sippy Cup, and also Food City. And we purchased a good number of gift certificates that also went to the families and to some of the recipients on the tags. And that was a huge success. And we couldn't have done it without their donation and the donation from a lot of the businesses in town, and also Food City doing their roundup again. And it really was a huge success. And I can tell you, some of the people that came in to pick up the gifts for their children, when they saw gift certificates in there, like for Food City, they actually were crying because there is such a need this year. There was tears coming down their eyes. And I think of all years, the community here was very, very generous. And I just want to thank the community as a whole also. We have some tweaks we're going to do next year, but we served probably over 100, I would say 150 gifts for kids that we provided gifts for. And so I was glad to be a part of that this year, and it was a huge success. And thank you to everybody that was involved in it. That's all I have tonight.
That's awesome. Thank you, Diane.
I have the one of the things that we were remiss in at our last meeting, it ran so late, year in review. That's the next item with where we were at. So I sent this out just after that meeting, but I just read it into the public. During the 2020 calendar year, the council made progress on our list of goals for ourselves, as well as addressing the items listed. Yeah, okay. I want to make sure it was the same one. We were successful in getting a 2020 facade grant for $100,000, CDBG housing assistance grant for $1 million, 2020 coronavirus emergency support for $75.59, 2020 CTCL grant for $5,000, 2020 Homeland Security grant in the amount of $65.18, 2020 Municipal COVID-19 Awareness Grant in the amount of $50,330, Municipal Streaming Crossing Grant, $6,000, Maine Development Foundation Entrepreneur Grant, $70,000, Maine Community Broadband Grant, $29.50. The council adopted the following ordinances and policies: amended Chapter 11 for medicinal marijuana established, amended Chapter 46 for streets, Article 3, Chapter 70, zoning for accessory dwelling units, amended the fee schedules, amended the purchasing policy, adopted the new emergency ordinance to promote public health and safety, and amended Chapter 14 GA ordinance. The town report was dedicated to Carol Crafts. The council hosted an employee appreciation day for employees and their families at Beaver Park. The 2020 projects included the transfer station compact trailer, the Warren Mill site, Pinewoods Road reconstruction, wastewater treatment plant generator, the town office drainage and building repairs. We refinanced the QECB municipal loan, the Davis Street pump station, and the WWTP chlorine tank improvements, the Lisbon Falls Fire Station roof, the Lisbon Village sidewalk corrective action plan, new LED message sign for the town office, renewed the animal control contracts. The council would like to thank the following businesses for their continued investment in our town, for their new relocated or expanded businesses: Tina Fox Solutions, Black Bear Weaponry, Clay Haven Studio, Martin Asphalt Paving Service, Landry's Like New Cleaning and Lawn Care, La Liberty Auto Detailing, Align Tattoo, Pine State Hosting, Pine Line Lawn Care, Paul's Shoe Repair, J. Zach and Associates, Mainly Village at number 9, Portland Performance, Delightful Heights, Crystal Spring Healing, Lisbon Cannabis, 207 Edibles. The council recognized under good news and recognition the following: Lisbon High School Cheering, Kids to Parks Play, Childhood Cancer Awareness, 50th year of the Lisbon Junior Athletic League. June and November referendum questions were approved for the Maine DOT 125 project. We reinstated the Finance Committee, appointed Heather Ward as chair, Curtis Lunt as vice chair, Dan Lehman, Noli Lopez, Jesse Zach, and set up the Lisbon Beautification Reserve account, the successful Thanksgiving basket program, and council recognized the following personnel changes: retirements, Elwood Beal, PW Operations Manager, Cheryl Garnett, Recreation Department. Appointments, Ryan McGee, Police Chief. We said goodbye to Mark Hagan, former Police Chief, Mike Pila, PW Mechanic, Julie Goddard, GA Caseworker. We put in a flat budget, both on the school and town, that was passed and approved in June with the vote referendum, and been a busy year. So thank you for everybody that had a piece in all of this for a successful program year from our perspective. Next item, Twyla, where are we?
We are at council goals. Item D.
All right, I shared in a email to you folks, what we have at present, what I've heard, and it's kind of a work in process. So for at least consideration for, where we are in the beginning of this year, I'll read town council goals for the coming 2020 year. Improve facilities management and maintenance, the capital improvement plan, finance committee, staff resources. Finance committee, review of the combined capital improvement plan, greater scope of projects, vehicles, equipment, projects, infrastructure, one capital asset policy, maintenance, budgeting, financing, discussions of the operational improvements, a Lisbon emergency contract renewal, and / EMS services in general. That was a item that I just heard. Support green initiatives to reduce Lisbon's carbon footprint. Town office entrance and exit lighting. As I mentioned, we've put that at least on the capital improvement plan. Documented updated job descriptions for all town positions. Improved communication, promotion by council and town issues to the public at meetings, social media, etc. Solid waste cost reduction and transferring to use versus taxpayer discussion, paper bag, etc. Expanding the economic development promotion, economic development contracts and global sustainability initiative, Graziano Square and Warumbo site plan development. Complete what we've started would be the intent. Town planners and goals for the coming year. Town manager eval and contract. Staff recognition, staff training. Committee goal setting, communications coordinating with the various staff. What I'll do with this, again, if I believe I sent it out, I'll update for the current revisions. We can set priorities for this and we can use it as a blueprint. So when we look back at this time next year, we'll be able to benchmark where we are for progress. Anything else that anybody might add for discussion that maybe just came to them? Hearing none, I will keep that open. Anybody's got anything, it's a collective that's actually everybody's input to that process. So by all means, I appreciate the initiative because I believe our strength is 7 of us, not any one person taking the lead on any one topic. So that said, nothing else, we'll move on, but next item, Twyla.
All right, we did appointments, which are the council liaisons, so councilor communications.
Anybody got anything else? I know Dawn does. We talked about it and I don't remember what it was now.
You don't.
Oh, yes, I
Okay.
did. Briefly, it was EV and manager's eval.
Yeah. The electrical vehicle, the electric vehicle charging stations is slated to come before the council on the next meeting. We have a contract proposal, and just to reiterate, it's a grant from CMP with a value of about $20,000. And the location, there'll be more details and everybody will see all that. There's the money required. We think we know what funding source to use. Some of it, I hadn't planned to put it in the capital improvement plan because it's a near term next year budget item and just a small amount this year. But anyway, more about that next meeting, and Brett will have some input in it as well. But the main reason I wanted to speak is because our illustrious chairman some weeks ago asked me to put together some information for our town manager's annual review, and I don't work well without some kind of system. So you got it. I mailed it to everyone. Is there anyone that did not receive a packet from me? Everybody did? Okay. In it, it lays out, and the idea was to do this in a regimented fashion so we don't get all jammed up in March. But so I want to propose that we have a meeting intended to be largely executive session 1 week or less after the 19th meeting. And that's because I can't possibly, because of COVID restrictions, I can't possibly do all those in-person meetings that need to happen. And so what I would like to do is in-person executive session. So it should be no longer than an hour. We pick a time or whatever. So any day, I had proposed the Tuesday following, but any day is good with me. I'm looking for suggestions, but I would like to do that. We obviously have a special meeting and then go immediately into executive session and hash it out, and there wouldn't be any vote coming out. So that's the process. Anybody object or
So
anybody
you're saying
awake?
1 week after dawn,
Yeah, that's the 26th.
the 26th, you're not opposed to that time frame?
No, the reason I wanted to get it then or before is because we have information due from counselors, and I want them to be able to have the most information available. It would come from, the information is coming from, Diane's already sent me her goals and accomplishments, and her direct reports have already replied to some degree, and we'll have all that information by then. So I want to be able to share it properly with you guys and not try to have 50 meetings all over the town.
So the 26th, 6 PM, is anybody opposed to doing an executive session? I'm looking potentially at the council chambers. That would just be us and whoever needs to be by statute to be able to hold that for personnel.
I think Twyla has to be there to open the meeting, but after that, that's it.
Can we put that on there for a special meeting? Does it have to be a special meeting or executive session? How does that get phrased, Twyla?
Yeah.
It's probably a special meeting.
So that-
Special meeting, you'll open it, go into executive session, I'll record it, just that you opened it, and then you can tell me what motion that you used to adjourn.
Okay. Personnel policy on the 26th, I need that. I'll make the motion. Dawn, you want to be the second?
I'll second.
Okay. Good. Roll call on that one, Twyla?
Okay, Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Ganong,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes,
so it's 7-0. Order
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Hearing it out from Dawn is the fact that he wants to very much actually have all that information there and make sure that there aren't all the papers that are actually flying around and everything to be able to protect all the information that's being compiled. But he believes the best opportunity would be a face-to-face. So I appreciate everybody for making that happen. Anything else, Dawn? I know we talked about a lot.
I'm good. No, I'm good.
Next item, 12.
Is audience participation and response for new items? Those listening from Town Hall, live video streaming are now invited to send written comments by emailing award@lisbonme.org.
I just checked my phone and I have no other emails, Twyla, so moving right along.
All right, so the order 2021-09 adjourn.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Looks like Mark's turn.
Sure, I'll second that.
And another roll call vote, if you like. Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Ganong,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
and Counselor Fellows.
Yes.
You stand adjourned,
Absolutely.
7-0.
Perfect.
Before everybody leaves the meeting, we have a lot of things that need to be signed from tonight's meeting and also a lot of warrants, and everything will be over in dispatch.
Okay. Also, Diane, can you put on a placeholder underneath the town manager's report for the next meeting to revisit what February is going to look like, whether they continue to be Zoom or back to in person? So
Okay, yep,
I'm not optimistic that we're going to know much more than we do in this current 2-week block, but at least we put it out there for a placeholder for a month at this point.
okay, yes.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. You too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.